This video seeks to answer the question, why be moral? The book brings up a hypothetical situation in which one were invisible, they could do anything they wanted or get away with anything without being caught. And in the theoretical of that, if you could do that, why be moral? I would argue that if one could do anything they wanted to do without getting caught, one could also do much good in the world. That it's simply a point of view. Why be moral? There are several reasons why one should be moral. First of all, society requires that there be a somewhat agreed upon set of right and wrong boundaries. Without these, there can be no functioning in society. The result would be fear, mistrust, and general anarchy. It would be impossible to work together. It would be impossible to accomplish anything together if one couldn't trust those that they were with. Relationships depend upon trust, and trust depends upon morality. Without an understanding of how to relate to each other in a moral way, it's impossible to ever get close. It's impossible to ever form friendships. It's impossible to share feelings or thoughts. It's impossible to witness. The result would be constant fear and a lack of security. For the individual, why be moral is a question of consequences. Some of these consequences could be as the result of laws. Most laws are based upon a common set of right and wrong. And morality is defining right and wrong, and being moral is choosing to do what's right. Without being moral, there would be consequences, and the consequences could be legal. But I would argue that each of us have an innate sense of right and wrong, and that the consequences of that would be guilt, remorse, regret, anger, perhaps self-loathing, and general unhappiness. I would argue that living in the right is more satisfying than living in the wrong. The question also of why be moral for the Christian goes even farther. Even if you ignored the above reasons, that society demands it, that relationships require it, that our conscience defends it, for the Christian to follow the moral example of Christ is an imperative. We are called to model Christ, and to model Christ means to model his behavior. We are given an objective set of right and wrong in the Bible to which we are obliged to adhere. We also know that God wants obedience and not sacrifice, and that one way that you can show love to God and love to Christ is by following his law. Reflecting Christ means having the moral values that Christ had. The question of why be moral would come up several times probably in our society, and there are many that do not believe that there's an absolute sense of right and wrong. But I would argue that there is. That the fact that societies require it, relationships demand it, laws enforce it, conscience displays it, and God is glorified in it, is enough of a reason to live a moral life.